Okay, my friends, it is time to take a deep dive into what I think if I had to pick one band that was my favorite band of all time, it would absolutely, definitely be Shinedown. But after Shinedown, number 2 would be Blink-182. I'm joking. I've never listened to a Shinedown album in my life, just for the record. Never listened to Shinedown in my life, but I do sincerely love Blink. They've been my favorite band pretty much, I don't know, probably for like 25 years. Legitimately, absolutely love Blink. But here's the thing, you know, their discography has its ups and downs. They're not one of these bands where if you like one album, you like all of them. You know what I mean? They've got some, you know, they got some rough spots here and there. And with all the lineup changes, that sort of complicates things too. So I figured we would take a deep dive into the Blink-182 discography, and I will give you, in my opinion, the Blink albums ranked in order from worst to best, in my personal opinion. And obviously that all goes without saying that, of course, listen to the entire Shinedown discography from front to back before you go any further in this video. And then after you have done that, you're free to continue, okay? I'll give you a minute. And really quickly, I also wanted to mention my Patreon. If you like what I do on YouTube and everywhere else, joining my Patreon really helps me do this full time and worry less about videos getting demonetized by YouTube or copyright claimed by labels. Patrons get all my podcasts and main channel videos early. There are members only channels in my Discord that I'm super active in. I also do giveaways. For example, I've been giving away a lot of Emo's Not Dead merch, and you can also have me review your music, artwork, or anything else. All you need to do is join my Patreon at the $10 level, and then every month I do a call for submissions. If you want me to review something, just drop it in the comments of that post, and then I will review it live on Twitch. So if any of that sounds cool to you, hit the link in the description of this video, and I appreciate your support. All right. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the Shinedown discography. Now it's time to talk about Blink-182. Again, in order, we're going from worst to best. And in my personal opinion, the worst thing in the Blink discography, in my opinion, is 9, which was from what, 2019, I think. This was the second album, I think, with Matt Skiba. And it's still not bad. It's still not terrible. It's just not great, you know? I mean, Blink at their worst is still a good band. So when I say that this is the worst thing in their discography, I would still say it's a better album than what probably 90% of bands sound like at their best. And, you know, it's not anybody's fault. I've talked about this before, but, you know, Skiba era Blink is just not Blink. Blink is a band with 3 people in it, with Mark, Tom, and Travis, and it's just not the same without Tom. So, you know, Matt did the best that he could. But it's just not Blink without Tom, in my opinion. And I don't know. I just think this is just kind of, it's just okay. So I would put this as the worst thing in their discography, in my personal opinion. Next, again, from the Skiba years is California, which is from 2016. And I liked what they tried to do with this one. They were trying to kind of recapture prime era Blink. You could tell they were trying, but it's just not the same without Tom. I feel like what Tom brought to the mix was the fun. You know, you can say a lot of things about Matt Skiba, very talented guy, but fun, I would say, you know, he's not exactly fun. Let's put it that way. I feel like this era of Blink really should have been like the Lost plus 44 album. You know, it's kind of a downer. You know, they're trying to recapture prime Blink, but they're like 40 years old. There's no Tom. It just didn't work. I will say the deluxe version of California is quite a bit better than the original version. So I think like a year later or something like that, they put out a deluxe version that's has like a whole other album. And that whole other album of songs, in my opinion, is quite a bit better. Definitely check out the deluxe edition if you haven't. But even so, I would say this is second to worst. Again, it's not Matt's fault. It just is what it is. Is just okay. Not the worst thing in the world, but not the best. I would say second to last thing in their discography. That's my opinion. The third worst thing in their discography is their very first real I guess you could call it an album, but I think it was really a demo that just got re-released, which is Buddha. This is from what, 94, I think, 95. This is the first real thing they recorded with Scott, the Scott era. Oh yeah, Fly Swatter, I forgot about that. Fly Swatter is just like a demo, right? So I'm just gonna leave Fly Swatter off. I mean, you can hear what they're trying to do, you know. It's skate punk era Blink, but it's just not good. I'm sure they would agree with me, you know. Just like, yeah. However, even though this is like kind of crappy in a lot of ways, especially the production is just absolutely putrid, personally, I would still rather listen to this than Skiba era Blink. Personally, not good, but at least it has like the kind of energy. It's fun, it's silly, it's got that upbeat energy that to me is what like draws me to Blink, which is just missing from, you know, Skiba era Blink. So even though this is like pretty crappy, personally, I would still rather listen to it than any of the Skiba stuff. It's fun. Now, here's where things start getting kind of decent. The next one, which, you know, I was debating not even putting this in the video because, you know, to me, live albums don't really count. But I knew if I didn't include it, someone would say, I'm shocked that there was no mention of the Mark, Tom, and Travis show. And I would say, oh my God, I'm sorry that I gave you PTSD by not mentioning that thing that you liked a lot when you were 13 years old. So just to help that poor man that would say he was shocked and disappointed, horrified that there was no mention of the Mark, Tom, and Travis show, their live album from 1999. I'm here to help. Don't worry. Here it is. I mean, it's a live album, you know, what is there to say? Personally, I never really understood the appeal of live albums because, I don't know, it just sounds like a worse version of the studio album. You know what I mean? Especially for Blink, who, with the exception of Travis, are not exactly the world's best musicians. I mean, this sounds fine, but just there's no reason I would ever choose to listen to this over the studio versions. These songs are so good, though, that even a kind of underwhelming live version of it is still good. It's not awful by any means. These songs are incredible. The banter is good too. That's true. There is a lot of good banter on here, but to me, the banter is not enough for it to justify its existence, in my opinion. So to me, you know, this is the worst thing of the best era of Blink, in my personal opinion. But still, you know, could be worse. Could be worse. The next one on the list, in my personal opinion, is Neighborhoods from 2011. I like this album more now than I did at the time. I wouldn't say that I love it, but to me, this sounds a lot like, it kind of sounds like Boxcar Racer. Yeah, it feels like Angels and Airwaves / Boxcar Racer featuring Mark Hoppus, which is not a bad thing to me because I do like Angels and Airwaves a lot, and I also like Boxcar Racer a lot. It's just not necessarily what I want from Blink. You know what I mean? I do like it. I think it's a good album. I would be happy to listen to it any day. But again, it just feels kind of down and dark. That's just not what I want from Blink. I want, you know, I need some dick jokes. I need them talking about boobies. I need them talking about having a wet dream because you have a crush on the girl from the mall who works at Orange Julius, and your crush was ruined because one day you went to go talk to her when she was at work and she turned around to like go make an Orange Julius for someone, and you heard her fart, and then you smelled her fart, and you're like, oh my God, I've been crushing on this girl for 2 years, but now it's ruined because I just heard her fart. That's what I think a Blink song should be about, personally. Is there a single lyric about boners on this album? That's my question. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I listened to it. But anyway, I think Neighborhoods is good, but it's just a little bit too down for me. Who knew that a fart could kill a crush? I'll tell you this. I remember hearing Tom on Loveline at the time, and he told a story about going on a date with a girl, and he went over to her house to like pick her up, and she was like, oh, you can come in. I'm almost ready. You can come in. And he went into her house, and he had to use her bathroom, and he went in there and used it to pee, and realized that right before he went in there to pee, that she had just like made a giant shit. And then he was like, I was totally grossed out. I couldn't handle it. And I told her I had to get something out of my car. And then I just got in the car and drove away and never talked to her again. And I said, respect. That's what I'm talking about. That's the move. That's king shit right there. If you smell a girl's poop, you just fucking leave. Peel out. The cartoon, like, the cartoon tires squealing kind of sound effect. That's what I think. Remember, girls, never, ever, ever poop, okay? If you want to attract a decent man, the type of guy that's going to settle down and marry you, never, ever, ever poop. Hold it for your entire life, okay? That's my life pro tip. Now, in the middle of the pack, we have the self-titled album, or as somebody was very upset with me the other day, I did a reaction to their new song and I referred to it as, I referred to it as the self-titled album. And a man in the comments was very, very angry with me and wanted to let me know it was not self-titled, it was untitled. And I said, oh my God. I'm so sorry. My thoughts are with you during this difficult time. I'm so sorry that I offended you by referring to it as self-titled instead of untitled. I'm very sorry that I got it wrong. I remember I didn't like this at the time. I like it more now than I did then. I remember at the time being like, oh, they went emo. And they kind of did go emo. You know, Tom's emo hair. You know, that's not a bad thing. It's just not necessarily what I wanted, but I do like it. I feel like these days people think, for the most part, think this is the best album, I think. It seems like the fan opinion now is that this is their best album, which I don't see things that way, but I don't disagree with it. It definitely got a little bit darker, a little bit more mature. By the way, do you like it when people say the word mature as mature? Like your high school English teacher? I remember I had one that we made some like dick joke or something like that, and she's like, fellows, please, can we be a bit more mature? And we all laughed because she said mature, and then she got even more mad. Anyway, I think this is a very good album. I do like it. Again, it's a little bit more emo than I wanted Blink to be, but it's still fun. I liked it. I think it's a good album. Now, that brings us up to the number 4 album, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, which I think is also an excellent album. However, a little bit more dark than what I wanted. It feels like they made a whole album of songs like Adam's song to me. A little bit darker and more moody, with the exception of 2 songs, which were The Rock Show and First Date. I love this song. Hanging out behind the club on the weekend. This is one of the best songs in my opinion. Now, what's funny is that the 2 songs that I like best on this album, which are Rock Show and First Date, were written basically as a fuck you to the label. So what happened is they recorded the whole album and they played it for their manager and the A&R. And their manager was like, I don't hear a single on here. This record is too like down and, you know, too dark. Where's the single? And so Mark and Tom got kind of butthurt by that. And they were like, all right, I'll give you the fucking single, just like the Korn song. And so they both went home and wrote those 2 songs in like, you know, a day each. And they're like, okay, here's your fucking single, motherfucker. Well, lo and behold, those were the singles and they were the best songs in the album, in my opinion, even though they kind of wrote them in spite. But I love this video also. This is one of my favorite videos that they've done. You know, even though they were getting more mature, it was fun. It was silly. The vibe that I always wanted from Blink was kind of like the vibe that you would get from CKY. It was like you felt like you were friends with them, even though you didn't know them. You know what I mean? You felt like if somebody gave you and your friends a bunch of money, this is what you would do with it too. Like, oh, let's just go buy a bunch of shit and then smash it just because that'll be funny. I love this video. I love both of those songs. The album as a whole is a little bit darker than I would prefer, but I do like it. I think it's good. So for that reason, I will say that it is the 4th best Blink album. Next, in the number 3 spot, we have Cheshire Cat. Now, there's a lot of people who are, I'll call them the Blink hipsters, who believe that Scott era Blink is superior. The pre-Travis hipsters who will tell you that early Blink was better. And I disagree with that. I strongly disagree with that. However, I do see their point. It is a different kind of band, and I do like, you know, it's a little bit more kind of straightforward, you know, early 90s skate punk. And I agree. Eminem's is the best song on Cheshire Cat. I think this is one of their best songs, actually. You can tell what they were going for. Obviously, pretty rough compared to their later stuff, especially the drumming, but still really fun stuff. This song is great. I mean, that's such sloppy drumming. But what a catchy song. It's like the best high school punk band to ever exist, you know? God, those vocals are rough. but it's great. I love this chorus. I think of this album as, you know, the evolved version of the Descendants. I love their fits too. The airwalks, the white socks, man. I would like to bring these looks back. The baggy jeans, the airwalks, those puffy white socks. I feel like we missed this. You know, the 90s have been cool for so long, and now the 2000s are becoming cool. I feel like we just skipped over this whole era of like 90s skater fashion, and I'm very upset about it. This was like my teenage years, and I feel like I've been cheated. I've been wronged. I feel like God just took a giant poo-poo on me by never reviving this look. In any case, I don't think this is their best album, but there's something I like about it. It's very nostalgic, just makes me happy. And so for that reason, I would put it in number 3. And that means in the number 2 spot, we have Dude Ranch, which a lot of people will say is their best album. I don't really see any way that you could justify saying that, but I do think it's good. Josie is an S-tier song. Great video too. Josie's a B-tier song. Get the fuck out of here. You're crazy. I want this look, okay? Is it too late for me to have this look? I'm going to get hair transplants just so that I can have bleach blonde hair with the black flies, I don't even know what you call those ball chain necklaces with the white shirt, and of course a JanSport backpack. I'm getting hair transplants just so I can do this. Yeah, my girlfriend takes me home when I'm too drunk to drive. Great video, great song. Just to me, this was the first pop punk band and video to like really capture the feel of like a 90s teen movie to me. This is what I wanted, you know? I wanted something that was like non-ironically the soundtrack to being like, you know, a down bad, horny suburban teenage skate punk kid, because there was stuff like Descendants. They had that song Suburban Home, but that was supposed to be ironic. You know, I wanted a band that would just like legitimately celebrate being a horny suburban teenage punk guy, which is basically what this is. It's like unapologetically that. I mean, the whole video takes place in high school, you know, and that's what I liked about it. I heard this in, I think it was 96, 97. I got this sampler called Snowcore, which was like a sampler for some snowboard tour that they were doing back then. I think this was the song that was on it. It was either this or Damn It. I don't remember which. But that was the beginning of my love affair with Blink. Somehow I saw this video which had Alyssa Milano in it, which of course I was hopelessly in love with Alyssa Milano at the time, as was anybody else my age. I mean, if you said otherwise, you were lying. And if you're telling the truth, I don't trust you. So, I mean, I can still listen to this album. It definitely, you know, it's a little bit rough around the edges, of course, but to me, as far as like pre-Travis Blink, you know, this is as good as it gets. Damn It is a great song also. I think it's an incredible album. But if I had to point to one album as peak Blink, it's obvious. The answer is Enema of the State is the best. This is the definitive one. The definitive album. This is not just the definitive pop punk album. This is the definitive pop punk song. Period. End of story. I don't care what anybody says. There is no song, no video, no album, no moment in time that defines pop punk more than this, right? The end. That's it. This is the template for all pop punk after that. Every single song on this album is a 10. There is not a single bad song or a bad moment, like not a bad note on this entire album. Every single second of this album is absolute gold. For me personally, if I had to pick one album as the best album, you know, of all time, I would pick this one. Personally, I think it's just absolute gold. Adam's song is my least favorite song on the album, but even that one's good. Great video too. One of my favorite things about this video is how it tied into the pop culture moments of the time. From what I understand, they didn't even know what these references were. I guess it was the director that was doing all that, but it was perfect because it really made them feel like a part of pop culture in a way that no other punk band did. And that was just like absolute genius because they were a boy band, but they were also, you know, making fun of boy bands. To me, they were just like the perfect version of like non-threatening, you know, punk boys. You know what I mean? You felt like you could bring them home to meet mom and they wouldn't make it weird. They'd be polite to your mom. Unlike say Green Day, where, you know, I mean, Green Day is awesome, but you don't want to bring any of them home to meet mom. So for me personally, I think this is the definitive Blink album, the definitive pop punk album. In my opinion, it is the single best album of all time. In my personal opinion, if you disagree, that's okay. But for me, this is the best album of all time. It is untouchable, beyond reproach. That's what I think. And that does it for the Blink-182 discography deep dive. If you smell a girl's poop, you just fucking leave. Peel out.